Hello! In this video, I would like to look beyond the lesson into lesson preparation. Of course, I use many English books throughout the lesson. For example, Conversation Gambits, Conversation Strategies, Streamline Series, English Grammar in Use, Longman Series, TOEIC, and Business Objectives. However, I would like to talk about my original lesson plans today. Recently, a student wanted to express the idea that speaking English is still unfamiliar to them. In order to express the idea, they used the English structure, "I am not used to speaking English." Of course, this led to the question, what is the difference between "I am not used to speaking English" and "I didn't used to speak English"? These kinds of questions and this type of mistake gives me a good direction to go with that student's next lesson. I believe that lessons should be conversation-oriented, meaning that the student does most of the talking and that the talking is a free-flowing conversation. However, I also believe there should be a grammar core or a lesson focus so that when the student does leave the classroom, they've learned something new or they've strengthened some weakness. The first step in planning a lesson is research. I use the Cambridge Press Advanced English Grammar in Use to research any grammar that I plan to teach. Now, I don't want my lessons to be an intense grammar lesson, so I first read the text and take notes. I document any important points that the student would need to know. I then use Photoshop to create a template for the lesson. In the lesson that I am now planning, we will discuss the difference between used to do and didn't used to do. However, another important structure that students often confuse is be used to doing and not be used to doing. When planning the notes, I will put each aspect of the grammar into its own category so that the student is not getting an intense grammar lesson. Instead, they are getting one single grammar point, an example, and a question to prompt them to use the grammar. From that point, we will usually go into a conversation. The conversation may be centered around something that would allow them to use the grammar, but the student is not encouraged to create sentences only to use the grammar. I often choose photos to put on the notes that are related to the conversation, but may also introduce new vocabulary. For example, if we were making the sentence, "I used to wear a uniform," I might be able to use this picture to elicit as much vocabulary as the student knows using the word uni. As you can see, other photos that I use, which are related to the function of the language, would also be new vocabulary for some students. And aside from being new vocabulary, would also give us a chance to have conversations about the student's personal life and how the photos relate to them. Once I've completed the template, I read over it and I put myself in the student's mind and I ask myself, is there any vocabulary or any expression or structure that would lead us into an intense grammar lesson? I hope not. If the notes need to be simplified, I simplify them. I can adjust my teaching to make it challenging for the student or easy for the student. I now print out the notes and they are ready to be taught to the student in the next lesson. In the next video, we will be able to see me actually teaching the curriculum.